Listen. Sadly, one of the best movies of 2019 isn't coming out till 2020, so we had to talk about it. Let us explain.
So what we do on Let Us Explain is dive deep on something that we can't stop thinking about for other people who can't stop thinking about that thing too. That means we'll talk about anything and everything, including spoilers, so you might want to wait until after you've seen Portrait of a Lady on Fire to watch our segment, or not. If that's your thing, that's okay too. But before we jump into the spoiler zone, let's talk more generally about Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, when he's embarrassed, he bites his lip. It's Arturo Zurita.
What if he did know that detail that bought me?
I would be a little concerned.
That'd be a little like, how do you, Zach? How do you know he does that? I'm excited to be here, but I'm more excited the fact that we have two people who I think I know you have it above as one of your favorite.
Yes, I do.
I don't know if Amanda has it.
I've
I
got
think
it
Amanda's on the right side of
tied
history.
with Parasite. I need to see them both again.
We accept that. But we have the second. I'm almost calling it the second half of our Parasite review because these two movies have been the things that we've been hyping up the most. We're also going to be talking about Uncut Gems in case you're curious about what other videos out there. But I'm really excited to have both of them on. I don't know who we had to introduce first. Zach, I don't know what your quip is. I think we're coming up.
I had She's Dreamt of running for years for Amanda the Jedi.
Hell yeah, that's a good one.
But I didn't have a third one for Alina Montemayor, despite her presence. I'm sorry about that.
But if you guys want to say hi.
Hey.
So we're really excited to get the Sundance crew back together. You may have seen us back earlier this year when we saw a lot of what are now our favorite movies of the year, but we also went to the TIFF, saw many great movies at the Toronto International Film Festival, including Portrait of a Lady on Fire. So we really are excited to discuss the latest from Celine Sciamma?
I don't know how it is. I keep saying it with the hard C, Sciamma.
Sciamma? I think it's
that sounds Italian.
Sciamma.
I know.
Yeah, she's French, but that ain't a French last name.
Well, we just learned today that we actually have a French advisor on our panel, which is a really good considering
but
this
not
is
Parisian French. Before anybody comes in here being like, ugh.
I don't know the difference, Amanda. So to us, you're the highest one in regards to knowing the language. But
absolutely,
I'm excited to talk about this one because I think all of us agree here. All of us saw Les Miserables. I think. I don't know if you were able to catch it, Amanda.
Amanda, you saw it too?
I did, yeah.
Sweet. Yes. So then, that being the submission for the Oscars for France, you think it's a bad choice?
Yeah. Did Korea pay money? Were they like, don't send Portrait?
I love this conversation here. If you haven't seen Les Miserables, it's another French movie that I
just to
really,
get
really
to clarify, France chose the movie Les Miserables as its official submission for Best Foreign Film at the Oscars, basically snubbing Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which has been getting a lot of great praise. We talked about it a little bit on a previous intercut that we understand, I guess, the decision.
But
yeah, I mean, I think we all agree that Portrait is maybe the better movie.
Yeah, Portrait's going to be better than like half of the English submissions for Best Picture of the Year. So like, come on.
That is true.
It really is.
Come
on. The story set in 1770 as the young daughter of a French countess. It refuses to sit to have her portrait drawn by a new female artist who's joined them at their home. It develops into a bit of a budding romance between the daughter of the countess and the painter as they realize their similarities, and it's a very, very stunning film, not just in the way that the plot moves forward, but in its photography, beautifully shot. Amanda, let me start with you, since you are so effusive in your praise of Portrait of a Lady on Fire. What is it in the storytelling here that you feel like separates it from other dramas, other romances, that makes this story special?
There's just so many little things, and like we were kind of talking about it a little bit before we started, not to get into any spoilers, but it's just like beautifully directed. There's little things, little callbacks, a story that's mentioned in the movie that ends up painting your view of the rest of the story that you've just watched. And then in terms of just the romance, it's so honest and simple, and it doesn't fall into any kind of like horrible tropes that any kind of movie that seems to feature any kind of like gay characters runs into. And I think a big defining thing is that while obviously the gay community is going to love this, I think that this is just in terms if you just take it as what it is as a story, I can't imagine anybody not liking it if they're into dramas, if they're into romances. But it is so much more than a romance. I feel like sometimes you say romance, people think it's like, oh, it's a rom-com. But no, this is just a beautifully stunning story about like vulnerabilities and just an honest relationship. And I don't know, I loved it, and it hit hard in all the right ways and all the right places. I felt everything delivered where it needed to, and just stunning.
What theater did you see it in at TIFF?
Bell Lightbox, so the one that has like the really acoustic.
Ooh, and they have really good sound. We saw Roma there, and when the kids were running around, we thought they were actually in the back.
The thing that I noticed, unrelated, the thing I noticed about that theater is that when you start walking down the hallway to get into it, you can't hear any of the sound in the hallway anymore.
No.
So I got like 10 feet in.
It's insane.
And I was like, that door's still open and I can't hear anybody back there. So it's like, it's amazing. If you can see a movie at the Bell Lightbox, do it.
We highly recommend it. 3 thumbs up from all of us. Zach has yet to see one in there. But Zach, where did you see it?
I saw it here in New York.
Oh, you
I got to see it at the Walter Reed Theater.
Right.
I'm the outcast who had to wait to see both Portrait of Lady Fire and Parasite. But the Walter Reed Theater is a beautiful place to see a movie like this, and it kind of, it's one of those theaters where it's you kind of feel like everything melt away on the sides of you, and you can just focus in. And for a movie like this that is so stunningly shot and has such really striking images, there's the Portrait of a Lady on Fire poster, obviously, that has that really striking image of the dress on fire that I don't know, it's cemented into my mind. And there's also stuff like it's shown in the trailer, but there's a really simple shot on one of their faces, and you pull away a little bit and you see we emphasize that one so much. Yes, it's one of those shots. She does a lot of that where it's like you see them and the sequences start with those shots. It's just one person. Nope, it's 2. And it's a really smart way to draw them together, just to see them as a similar person,
that they're equals,
to relate their struggles to one another.
Yeah.
I mean, not to. I feel I told Art this after. It feels like Call Me by Your Name is maybe too obvious of a comparison to make, but the way that Call Me by Your Name does a really effective job in making its characters see each other in themselves, I think Portrait of a Lady on Fire does that just as well.
I think it does it better, in my opinion.
Sure.
It's a much better movie than
I really think Call Me by Your
so.
Name, if you really get down to it, it's really painted by the issue of there's a huge age gap there.
I was about to say, I'm like, that's the one thing that luckily Portrait does not have.
Yeah, there's nothing like that. They're on very equal footing. It's just solid. There's, like I said, it avoids a lot of those like really horrible tropes that you tend to see in a lot of like gay or LGBTQ plus, media.
Well, it was interesting because we were listening to or reading a interview with the director, and she was talking about how that was one of the biggest things that she wanted to make sure she didn't have. She also made sure to not have necessarily any backstories to the characters, and letting the actresses come up with whatever it is that they really wanted to embody with the character. An interesting quote that we're going to mention later with one of Alina's theories, or not even a theory because it's what she noticed in the movie with its storytelling. It was just that idea of what you said with the trope. She said a lot of times when you do stories around this age, you tend to like box them in, or the trope is always that there's power dynamics. Like other movies from last year that weren't my favorites with a U, but this is what I preferred. Like I came out of it saying, I was like, I feel like I got the emotions that everyone got out of The Favorite, but with this one.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
That's fair.
Because I've heard some people say that this wasn't their cup of tea, but they were big fans of The Favorite. And I was like, I don't know if there's just the way that they play them both.
I like them both, but I like this one a lot more.
Exactly, because she said, I didn't really want them to face off as like one superior than the other. They were both equals. And you could see that in the dialogue she writes.
The thing that is very separate about The Favorite than this is that The Favorite is kind of like a power dynamic thing, which some people end up on top, and that changes the circumstances. And this is much more even footing, even though the painter is being commissioned, and there is a little bit of like a client subject thing going on. They are quickly on the same wavelength with one another.
And what makes up that dynamic, in my opinion, is that, Eloise, so the rich one, she has money, but she has no freedom And then Marianne has freedom, and she's clearly doing well enough. Like that's where like their dynamics become more even. So even if you can say, well, one person's rich theoretically, but she doesn't have access, she doesn't have the freedom to do anything. You're bound
to that.
With that. So.
Another thing that ends up really interesting, talking about those similarities that they have, Eloise is obviously trapped by this idea that she's going to be betrothed, she's going to be wedded off, and it's something she obviously isn't interested in. And Marianne, being a female artist in a male-dominated society, isn't allowed to do a lot of the things that men are, and isn't allowed to paint nude portraits, for example. And they both see that their situation is limited based on what they want to do, what they are naturally inclined to do. So again, it does these really interesting jobs of drawing parallels between them. And Amanda, you mentioned how this is a romance but doesn't feel like a romance, and I feel like it's really more of a like slice of life drama. You know, you're really, it's more of a character study of these two people that happen to fall in love during the course of the film. And I think that's what makes it so intriguing is the way that it draws these two people from different backgrounds but facing similar issues.
And I think that ties back in again to there's no real background written to these characters. It's just they show up. You have like minimal details of what their lives were like before, but from that point on, it's just, act as honestly as you think you would in these situations. So
what's interesting is that it's also because I would also include, and I don't remember her name, the maid,
Sophie?
The maid's character. Yeah, Sophie plays like a crucial part towards the latter half of the movie, where she gets her own little subplot. But it's really just those three, and then I want to say it's not Eloise's mother.
Yeah.
Is it her mom, or is it the husband she's being betrothed to?
No, Eloise's mom. Yeah.
It's just these four actresses, and there's not a dude until we thought, we're gonna make it through the whole movie without.
There's a dude on the boat. Y'all forgetting about the dudes on the boat.
I wanted to forget about the dudes on the boat, but then the last one comes in. I was like, "Oh man, I thought we were gonna make it the entire way."
I mean, it's basically bookended with men, but other than that, it's all women. There's like a solid 90 minutes of this movie where you don't hear from a man.
It's just them going back and forth, including that one scene. And you do get to see a little bit on the trailer, and that's why I had mentioned what theaters you guys saw it in. Because when we saw it at the Winter Garden Theater, she came out and was gushing about the sound design. She's like, "Believe me, I'm not. I mean, it's my movie, but the sound design in this theater is very good.
It's good."
And maybe so was my movie. It was for the choir scene that comes in. And I remember when that scene hit and we were looking around, we were like, what is going on? I thought she brought people in to the theater to sing in there. But leading up to the whole portrait thing, another thing that we also really liked was the fact that they show you the portrait. A lot of movies like, this portrait's supposed to be really, really big, so we're not going to show it to you. We're going to leave it up into interpretation because everyone has
different versions. It's not the suitcase in Pulp Fiction.
Exactly. And they show it to you, and I'm like, wow.
No, I even thought that they weren't going to show her.
At the
very beginning. Because I didn't see any trailers. I didn't see anything. He bought the tickets. And I'm like, I whispered to him and I was like, is this going to be one of those movies where it's going to end and like we finally see the portrait because we're not actually going to see her face or whatever it is.
Nope.
And she like runs and she turns around and then we see her face. We're like, okay.
Her face is still burned in my head from when she turns around. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. No,
so
good. It's very good.
I almost didn't see this movie actually. So I walked out of Honey Boy because it was done. Not that I walked out of it, but it finished and I left. And I thought I had something at Scotia. And then I was like, oh no, with my schedule. So I'm looking, I'm like, Portrait's playing literally in the theater I just came out of. Art and Alina said they were going to see that. They must be going to that showing. So I turned around and got in line. Didn't really know what it was about. And then your guys were like, no, we have tickets for it tomorrow. And I was like, oh.
Because you told me, I got so scared because, again, we got the press pass. We were all lucky enough to go with that. But I had purchased tickets for certain movies.
Yes.
This was one I put down money to make sure I secured a ticket for.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you told me that,
people have been really high on this one since it premiered at Cannes earlier this year.
Yeah.
And for good reason. We're not here saying, put this on your radar. We're saying we're confirming this should be on your radar.
Yeah, exactly. I saw it and it was amazing. I was like, oh my God.
Alina, there's a really interesting element of the plot here in that because the daughter is being betrothed to someone in a different country who hasn't seen her, there's this whole element of needing Eloise to sit for the portrait, which I know you talked about being kind of a cool thing that you don't necessarily think
because of like the time periods. Like you can't like send a photograph or like ship her off over there because you probably don't want to do that either. It's your olden time like send me a selfie of yourself. You got to pose for this picture. Yeah, exactly. So 1700 Tinder. It's like, hey, this is me.
Yeah. Doesn't the mom say it's supposed to be more of like a wedding gift and that you can't betroth them off until this is done or something too?
Yeah, that's why it's such a big deal. That line is so crazy.
It's such a good line.
It is.
Spoiler line over here, just making it known. The line that she says, it's like me completing this painting, this portrait of you is literally me handing you off to somebody else. Yeah. I was like, oh my God.
It's so good.
I was like, don't paint the picture.
I know.
Burn it. And that's one of what you had mentioned, the scene with her turning around. Mm-hmm. She had mentioned like when you finally see the portrait.
Yeah.
I was excited. I want to buy the portrait where she smudged it. That was awesome.
That was great.
That to be the next trend
that
thing,
was the previous painters.
No, then he does. She does one of hers too.
She finishes hers. Well.
Yeah,
I just love that technique of just blurring out the face. I was like, that was
like
dope.
crying and just
thing over the eyes. Portraits doing this.
Yeah.
Watch that be a thing that every girl's putting on Instagram. It's just.
I'll do it.
No, it's a beautiful movie. The score is fantastic. The direction is fantastic. I think all three actresses do a great job. Mm-hmm. And one of the lines that Sciamma had said, Celine said, the director. She had said that someone had asked her, how do you make this contemporary? Because she doesn't want to see it as not so much a women's movie, but what'd she say? She had a specific line. It's about women at work.
Yeah. And it really is.
Yeah.
And she just wanted to show it because one of the, right when it begins, I look over at her, I was like, yo, she badass. She's like Rick Ross level badass. She's sitting there by her fireplace. She's got her students. She's got her school. She's got her things that people are commissioning her to bring her to an island. I was like, yo, she is dope.
Yeah.
So when she finally gets to the island and is making this portrait, when she had come out at the end to talk about the movie, she had mentioned, she's like, I wanted this to be about, a movie about women at work. A lot of people are trying to push. She's like, I don't know what else you want to label it at.
Yeah. The Marianne, is that the character's name?
Yeah.
So Marianne, she is a painter, so she's working. She's on commission. Mm-hmm. The maid, she's working, right? She's a woman at work.
Yeah.
And you could also say that Eloise is doing her duty as a woman, unfortunately.
Because she got taken out of school. Like she was away at like a boarding college or something, and she got pulled out of it because of like some bad situation that happened.
This is a new role.
Yeah.
And then.
So I was like, that's an interesting... This is an office movie in a sense. It just takes place in the 1700s. And we had mentioned that one review. I love how they put it from the Nocturno where they said, this is the story of women who at this point were meant to be seen, not heard from. So this is their story. So when all the men are away and doing what's been captured in movies for generations and generations... Why do you want to
see that again?
Yeah.
This is all the women who stayed back home to do something that, that's too much of a boring movie. We'll never make that movie. It's engaging.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Art, you had mentioned how the movie really feels alive when you get to that moment when Sophie, the maid, kind of joins in on their hijinks. I think the movie does kind of take a turn when the mother goes away for a little bit, and Marianne and Eloise are finally able to really connect without the watchful eye over them. Did you guys feel that turn in the movie too? Did the movie kind of opening up and releasing some tension? Yeah,
because like I feel like the tension builds right around that time too. And then they have that moment where they kind of have that witty back and forth. And it's so good. And then that just like breaks the dam. And then it goes into it. And you get that moment where they can kind of try to forget the reality of the situation that they're in for just a little bit. But then like Sophie's there obviously kind of like grounding the situation and giving them something else to focus on. Just because of some of her own issues. And then it just kind of like, it just crashes back into again in that moment where she's like, me finishing this painting is literally me handing you off, basically.
Yeah.
Like,
the one that got us, I think, was when she was doing the portrait of her, where she finally has her come in and she's specifically telling her all her insecurities.
Yeah, that's the back and forth.
And then they flip it back and they start telling the insecurities to the other person.
Yeah.
That was when I looked over at Alina, and I didn't want to say it yet, but we always have this thing where we look at each other at a certain point in the movie, and I was like, all right, it's close. Then they follow that up with the line of the year to me. It's even better than the uncut line, and it's even better than my favorite lines in Parasite about not having a plan. It is the...
I didn't know you were an art critic.
I didn't know you were an art critic. I didn't know you were a painter and slammed the door.
Like,
at that point, I looked over and I said, I think this may be one. I think this may be the one. We always do that when we watch a movie. We look over, he's like, is this the one? After that line, I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Then they follow it up with that choir scene. Then they follow it up with that inspiration of where she got it, of just a glimpse of what that does. You know? The portrait that you've been seeing and wondering what's going to be the origin of this. When you finally see the origin of where she got the idea to draw that masterpiece, is insane. Again, women at work. This is the story of the creative process.
Yep.
Which is why you said it's the perfect way of not saying that it's a love story. It's this hidden romance that's happening.
No,
it's there, but like you said, it's a slice of life of this woman doing her job.
Yeah.
And within there, she fell in love with somebody. But this is her creative process of how she did it.
Yeah.
It's a lot like Whiplash, if I were to compare it to another movie, of where she's trying to get something right, and she's trying to get something right, and it isn't until the end when you finally see that spark of creativity that comes in. A little bit different in the way Whiplash dynamics work. But that point of when she finally has it, like... Do you want to talk about the last three endings? Because then I feel like I'm going to...
So why don't we...
While you were talking about that, I was thinking the very, very last one, and I was like, ooh.
That's why.
Let's go ahead and dive into the spoiler zone here.
Very bittersweet.
We have talked a lot about what happens, but we're going to talk in detail about what happens right at the end of this movie. So if you want that saved for you, there's plenty of other videos on the Intercut channel to check out, so make sure you click onto one of those. But... let's get into our Portrait of a Lady on Fire spoiler discussion, because this movie has three endings, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah.
That's one of the first things that Art told me, is that he's got three endings and they're all great.
Yeah, exactly.
And it really does feel like there's three individual moments where the movie could have just stopped and it leaves you on a satisfying note, three haunting images. Do we want to say which ones are our favorites and why?
If you guys want to go.
It's so hard. Everybody, you go first.
Okay, I'll start.
Yeah.
So the one that I like, and I guess this is what I dabble in of my favorite part of the
storytelling,
film, is the way she tells the story. So the way the movie begins is her remembering, and because she's with her students in class, and they see this painting, they're like, where'd you get this painting? She tells a story about this painting. So as she's remembering back to the story, we then in the film realize there's another story about a man, how he left, and he looked back and got this one last glimpse, but him looking back means that he loses his significant other forever. Yep. So in the film, Marianne looks back to Eloise one last time while she's in her wedding gown. Yeah. And it's her finally accepting, she looks back and she's going to lose her forever, but she just wanted that last glimpse. And that last glimpse is just sprinkled into the movie because of her memory.
That's how you know that's the best ending.
So good.
She wasn't having glimpses of her at the opera, which is a great ending.
Yeah. That is a great ending.
I don't know if you guys prefer it. The real ending, that's the official ending, is her singing at the opera. But an even better ending was the one before when, I don't know if you wanted to...
you have Marianne show up at this art gallery of sorts many years later. This for me was the ending that really got to me.
That gutted me.
Because earlier in the film, they have that whole discussion about the drawing in the notebook. She keeps a drawing open to a certain page. And, you know Marianne and Eloise have gone their separate ways at this point.
That's so dope.
You're, expecting her to show up. You're expecting Eloise to show up, as a married woman, I guess. And when you see Marianne approach this painting of Eloise, it kind of... You get that sinking feeling of, they really went their separate ways. She had a kid. They're she's not on the path she wanted to be. So you briefly feel that heartbreak, and then you see the notebook open to the page on her lap. It's just such a small,
page
little,
28.
beautiful
small
detail.
detail.
I didn't even see it at first. I looked over, I was like, this is...
Oh, you didn't see that?
Page 28.
Dude, I noticed that before they honed in
time.
on it. Before they zoomed in on it, I was like, page 28?
Yeah, yep.
I thought, I was like, oh, the last time, because she says, and I saw her one last time, I was like, damn it wasn't a painting, that sucks. He's like, dude, what do you, look at the book, and I was like, what about the book? And she's like, it's the page, it's the code. I was like, that's some Masonic, that's some mobster coding stuff right there.
No, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a perfectly like subtle, just kind of like a note to her love without being over the top about it. I love that.
Everlasting. That ending is great. Again, like she said, our personal favorite is the first one because, again, it's when she looks back and it completes that parable about whether you look back.
The Orpheus story. It's the Greek mythology story of Orpheus and Eurydice. Yes.
Well, tell it probably in more detail than.
It's like it's not like super thing, but it's just like the Orpheus has a chance to bring his dead wife back to life, and the only thing he has to not do is look back at her. And then he does. And then the three characters, so Sophie, Marianne, and Eloise have like this
debate, argument,
back and forth, where like they each have like different interpretations of what the story means and like how
some side with him, some don't.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all like, why would he look back and then and know that he was going to lose her forever? And then there's the idea, it's like, well, maybe the memory of the moment is better than the reality of the situation.
And isn't it Eloise who kind of convinces Marianne that that's kind of the reason to look back as well? I think it was Eloise.
I think it was Marianne that said it.
Yeah, because Eloise was the one like, why would she look back? Why would you look back? All you had to do was not look back. And then it was Marianne who was like, obviously I feel like she's a little bit more of the realist of the two of them.
Exactly, yeah.
In that situation, at least in the romance. Because Eloise was the one who's like, she's right over it, reading it just so, like me reading Harry Potter when I was like 12, just going. That's what she was reading this like. So obviously you have those moments of like the callback, but I totally agree. There's the gut sinking moment when you see the painting, and then that little moment of like, oh my God, there's page 28. But then you get that other thing, and it's the theater. I'm like, you could just yell. I get that that's faux pas, but you could sneak out and go around. Like there's so many opportunities for you to go over there, but again, it's just like the moments pass type thing, and it's just such and then it like
but it's
it kind of pulls a Call Me by Your Name where it like lingers on her face.
Okay, you see there's too many shots where it's almost like you're making it hard to not compare it. It's bittersweet.
Right, like to end on a shot.
Yeah, but they didn't need visions of Gideon to sell this to me. They just needed the moment.
And you know what it is? It's because she's also crying, right? And Timmy's crying at the ending of Call Me by Your Name with his parents right there. Like, you hear something? Nah, let him cry in the fireplace. Like they let the food get cold while they cried in the credits. And then then Eloise, she's sitting there by herself,
and she starts.
There's enough places to go sit next to her and be like,
"That's what I'm saying. I'm here. Let's run away
again."
But it's so hauntingly beautiful, and then the tears just start, and she cries. And it's like genuine grief. It's like putting some Ari Aster stuff to shame here with the grief that she's just portraying in this opera house.
And
also, them listening to the song that they played on the piano.
Exactly. Yeah, because I was going to mention the song. They had mentioned earlier she's ever been to an orchestra show, and she went there on her own. Because
she wanted to experience it. Yeah, and it happened to be the song that Marianne said was her favorite song, and tried playing for her on this old, beaten down piano. So there's just
and Amanda, you mentioned how she's going through the grieving, but it's also like she goes through a whole process. Like by the end, she starts to collect herself too.
You get the whole range of it. I was like, it's like she just needed that moment, and then it's just a moment in time.
Just remember it. It's wild. I can't tell.
Can we just go watch the movie?
Just have it now.
I can't tell if when she's zooming in on Eloise crying, if Marianne is crying as well, but it's just a sound. Because everyone else was crying in the theater. So I can't tell if that was an effect or if it was just everyone crying in unison towards the ending of the movie.
Does Neon release Blu-rays and?
Yeah, 100%. No? That's the other thing when we talk about Neon has stacked itself. Parasite, Portrait, Loose.
Do they have Honey Boy? Is Honey Boy Neon?
No, Honey Boy is Amazon, but they have Honeyland.
Right, that's
Honeyland.
Okay,
they've got a few great documentaries.
Biggest Little Farm, I believe, as well.
Apollo 11, which a lot of people liked earlier this year.
They are stacked, dude. It's been insane seeing what Neon's been picking up, and I really like their range when it comes to foreign films. A24 has some foreign films, but The Souvenir is British. I don't really consider that a foreign film.
I don't.
But I love the dip that they're doing with foreign language films, and they've been doing it for a bit.
Yeah.
And dude, they picked up 2 of the best of the year. I think we're all in unison in saying, regardless of a Parasite or Portraits of Bob, depends on the day, right?
Yeah, it really does. What are you in the mood for? What are you in the mood for? Are you in the mood to be emotionally eviscerated, or are you in the mood to just kind of go through like 5 different genres of the movie? Yeah.
Either way, both of these are our top 2. I think out of everyone here, incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely one of our favorites of the year. Absolutely catch up with Portrait of a Lady on Fire whenever you get a chance to. And watch out for everything Neon's putting out.
Yeah.
They also co-released Little Monsters, another favorite of ours.
Yes. Did you watch it again? I know you put up your video.
I have not had a chance to watch it because it's not available in Canada, as far as I can tell. You guys get it.
You saw it at Sundance.
Yeah, you guys get it on Hulu on Friday. We don't have Hulu. So I'm assuming it might hit Amazon Video. Usually when we don't have things on Hulu, it hits Amazon.
You don't have Hulu?
No, we have Netflix, but
so you can't experience Huluween?
We don't have Huluween, no. I have to watch Blu-rays. Jeez.
I just found out about Huluween. That's for another discussion.
Yeah. But
I do want
Monsters is great.
Yeah, definitely watch that one. I'm curious, since we were talking about stuff with the Sundance, if you haven't seen that video, all of us did that panel as well. We also have the TIFF one, but specifically for this movie, considering Celine herself said she's not going to be pushing it for Oscars. I know Zach has been keeping up to see on the considerations. I don't think this is considered for anything. Who cares? What would you nominate this movie for?
Best Picture of the Year, cinematography,
director,
cinematography.
You have to.
Actors, honestly, even female performances.
Yeah.
Who would be lead? Who would? Because that's been the discussion all year, hasn't it?
I think Marianne would be the lead, and Eloise would be supporting.
Yeah.
Because it's Marianne's memory. It's her story.
I would have to agree. I would have to agree with that. Yeah,
it's hers.
But then they do these weird stuff. I mean, again, they were, and I like that Celine's like, I'm not going to taint this movie, because sometimes you do feel, that's been my worry with Parasite, like with a movie that's all about the class and stuff, that it's going to be these rich parties where they're giving out peaches.
Yeah, you mean where she has to
like it's weird.
Basically hand over. What was it? Wasn't it Jordan Peele?
Jordan Peele said that I felt like I had to whore out my baby, but now that I have this Oscar, I feel that it's worth it for other filmmakers to see me and go, yes, I want to continue this pursuit, and I feel it's worth it at the end. Celine went,
maybe she didn't care.
I made my movie. I got the Cannes Award. I'm good. I love her. She's the best. Watch any interviews you can of her.
Yeah, she's cool.
But I would agree. I would agree with all the ones that you guys said as well.
Yeah, I think we'd be really happy to see it sneak in for costume design or production design as well. The period aspects of this are really beautiful.
And you know who does it?
You know who dabbles in her own costume designs?
Oh my God, it's her! I knew that.
Without taking credit.
And she doesn't want to take credit for it.
She doesn't want to take credit. She goes often uncredited.
She's a badass.
And you said you didn't get to see a Q&A with her. I really wish you got to just see her speak.
Showing.
It's
Y'all know
on
press showings.
It's on YouTube.
Yes, that's
YouTube.
the great thing about TIFF is that every single Q&A is fully
and
recorded
they put them in HD.
in like good quality.
When you see,
even the ones that are like days down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Just watch her come out, and you're gonna be like, "Wow, ma'am, we know for a fact that you do your costume design. Come on." But yeah, that would be a really dope thing to see, because then she would get the credit as well. But definitely one of the best of the decades for ourselves, for sure. One of the best of the year. I'm excited for everyone to watch this.
Is that Penny, Zach?
Yeah, that's Penny.
Aww.
Penny even gives it a must watch.
She wants to contribute too. She also thought it was great.
Yeah, Penny loved it. Penny's really into period pieces.
Yeah.
It made her cry. It definitely made her cry. So yeah, I mean, I guess with my dog crying, that should just about wrap us up. Unless anybody else has anything else they want to mention on Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Nah.
That's about it for this episode of Let Us Explain on the Intrica podcast. Amanda, where can people find more from you?
Literally everything. Amanda the Jedi, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, all of the above. Been making a pretty big YouTube push lately, so feel free to follow me there. Lots of movie content. Got my TIFF wrap up. Get a little Monsters video if you guys are interested in knowing a little bit more about that and some of the behind the scenes, like stuff with the director that went into making the movie. I got all that there. And yeah. Thank you.
Very cool. Alina and Art, where can people find more from you?
You can use Let Me Explain one.
Oh, yeah. Follow you mentioned it.
You do it.
Okay, Let Me Explain. That's LME Explain over on Twitter. That's where we collectively share our jokes, and we just post it up there. We make bets to see which one of our jokes gets the most likes. That's how we survive in our relationship.
Also,
it's been very aggressive.
It's LM Explain. not LME Explain. It's LM Explain.
LME Explain, in a sense, with the X. The other one was taken. I don't know who, but they took it. But yeah, you could go see over there. Please like mine. They're the funny ones. But yeah, you could also find us at Let Me Explain, the YouTube channel, the A to Z show. But you can find us every week on Intercut. And definitely send us your suggestions, your questions. We like to know what you guys think about the movies. Because sometimes we disagree, and those are our favorite discussions. But when it's something universal like this, if you didn't like it, I'm curious to know why. But also send us your thoughts on anything else. Any of the other TIFF movies that we haven't covered. I know
let us know what you want us to talk about. If you're asking us for it, there's a chance we'll cover it on a future show.
Gundala, any of those. What was the other one that we keep getting?
I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, Baccarat. There's a lot of other smaller ones that people.
Baccarat.
I keep saying it wrong too.
That's not the other one. Whatever.
There's a bunch of them, but let us know. You can tweet us, but follow us every week here on the Intercut Podcast.
Yep.
Yes. You can follow me at Zshevich on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd, or catch every episode of the Intercut Podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, whatever your favorite podcatcher is. I like Overcast. Make sure you subscribe not just to the audio podcast, but to the video feed on youtube.com, youtube.com/intercutpod. You can find new episodes every week of Intercut, and please leave us a comment, like the video, considering heading over to iTunes to give us a 5-star review, and like our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. All of them are at IntercutPod to get updates throughout the week from me, from Art, from Alina, from Amanda, from LME Explain or whatever, from all of our guests on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, we stand Celine.
Woo, we do. Yeah.